Palestine has become the symbol of the complete inability of the Western world to go universal. This is where all our principles fall apart.
Taking center stage today is Franis Burga, a French political scientist who has written extensively about political Islam and the social dynamics of Islamist movements. On May 28, 2025, Burga was acquitted of supporting terrorism, filed against him because of a social media post he wrote in January 2024 in support of Hamas. Burga explains what he believes were the motives behind the charge against him, why he was acquitted, and the current climate in the West when it comes to personal freedoms and support for Palestine. Franis Burga, welcome to Center Stage.
Thank you so much for your invitation.
So as a political scientist, you spent decades studying and talking about political Islam and Islamist movements. You've also said some controversial statements in the past, but then came January 2024, so a few months after the Gaza war started, and the spotlight was on you for something that you wrote on social media, on X, that I'm going to read, and I'm quoting you. I have more respect and appreciation for the leaders of Hamas than the leaders of the State of Israel. I don't think I'm the only one, quite the opposite. Why did you make that statement?
Because I meant it, and I still have a lot more respect today, even more than I had 1.5 years before. Now, let's put it into context, okay? I didn't say this on the night of the 7th of October. I said it in a totally different context after 3 months, almost 3 months. It happened that I met someone by the name of Max Blumenthal. He is the director of a gray zone agency. So there was a campaign, and the beginning of the campaign was an article in New York Times accusing Hamas of multiple sexual violence. And the story of this article, such as Max Blumenthal has documented very carefully through Israeli sources, not Hamas sources, is that after 2.5 months, the Israelis, they realized that they were losing some of their reputation in the US Congress. So they decided to start a campaign to raise the level of rejection of Hamas. And they inquired very cynically, the worst accusation, what would it be? So they decided that it would be a rape. Okay, and they built out of nowhere this accusation of rape. So Hamas responded. Hamas sent a brief message of denial. And my first crime is that I reposted this denial by Hamas, saying, no, we have nothing to do with what New York Times has described.
When you say your first crime, according to who?
To the French justice.
Okay.
The beginning of my case in front of the court is the fact that I have circulated a saying coming from Hamas. This is a crime, okay? Now, in this period of time, I received like hundreds of thousands of menaces.
You mean threats?
Yeah, threats and insults.
Okay, just because what I don't understand, when you said I have a lot more respect and admiration, you meant you believed more what Hamas was saying? What did you mean exactly?
All of what you can extract from this formula. I know the Israeli leadership. I had some respect for the Israeli society. I went there. I gave lectures in the house of Zionist associations. It means, I'm not a one-sided brain, okay?
So the minute you press that send button, right, after you wrote your post, you knew that there will be a storm.
No, not really. Not really. I was discussing, I was addressing a bunch of insults. So I said I wanted to make clear, if I circulate, we are in a war of information. What did I do? I circulate a denial by the enemy. That's all what I did.
So were you surprised when you were taken to court?
Yeah, of course.
Really?
Oh, yes.
I mean, there was a general atmosphere, and there still is, as you said, it's a war of information. And in Europe, there was an atmosphere at the time. You cannot say anything in favor of Palestinians, let alone Hamas. So why would you be surprised that you went to court?
Because I didn't say more than General de Gaulle in 1967. In 1967, General de Gaulle said, if you have an illegal occupation, you will need repression. If you use repression, you will have resistance. And you will label this resistance terrorism. Okay? That's what he said, loud and clear. I didn't say more than that. I just said that it is not a one-sided history, and those who are responsible for the conflict, they are the occupiers and not the occupied. But I knew that there was a commitment by the Minister of Justice, Dupond-Moretti. He said that whoever would correlate 7th of October with the idea of resistance would be criminalized. But I mean, you know, if you want to watch your face in your mirror in the morning, yeah, you have to go beyond these ugly limits. So maybe it's my temper, I don't know, but I could not stand staying still in front of those huge misunderstandings.
Do you think if you repost that same statement now, do you think there will be the same reaction, or opinions are changing a little bit?
Of course, they are changing. I mean, there is no rationality in the position of the Israelis. You can no longer defend their position. So whoever is blindly supporting them has to change, because the Zionists from the left, they have started after 2 years criticizing the Zionists of the extreme right. But Zionist militants have started moving toward some kind of restriction of their acceptation of what Netanyahu and his friends and colleagues and supporters are doing now.
And do you think that's the reason you were acquitted?
You know, if I want to be reasonable, I will say yes. If I want to be a little provocative, I will say the problem is that the day after, people were condemned for the same reason, and the difference between them and me is that my name is Francois and their name is Muhammad or Fatiha, and that's the problem. I commented and I said, I'm glad with this court decision, but it's unique. I wish it would be the rule, the new rule. The day after, someone whom I knew personally, who had done nothing but repost a video. He was not the author of the video, and the video was some kind of empathy to the Palestinian resistance. He was heavily condemned.
You're basically saying that the French justice system is racist.
I wouldn't put it this way. The French justice, let me tell you something. The hours before the court, I asked ChatGPT, am I going to be condemned? I mean, I don't want to be a promoter of ChatGPT, but the response was absolutely incredible. They said, if we stick at the low level, it is impossible that you are condemned, because the categories of what you have done cannot match with the idea of apology of terrorism. But in the present ambiance, in the present atmosphere in France, it is possible that the justice takes a wrong decision. It was like this, exactly. So French justice can do the best and can do the worst. This is well known from the colonial justice, you know, that they could hang people struggling for their rights. But they can do better, and they have done better. I must say we can have an appeal. Maybe they will make an appeal. But French justice has done its job when it comes to my case, but it has not done its job when it comes to several dozens of other cases of citizens which were all of them Muslims.
When I hear you talk, and what comes to my mind is what the French Republic is based on, supposedly, liberté, égalité, fraternité. Now, what you're saying is that doesn't exist in today's France.
2 sentences, 2 declarations of our Minister of Interior. At the end of a meeting against fundamentalism, he said, down with the veil. He concluded his intervention with down with the veil. But this is not the worst. This is against Muslims. He did worse than that. He said, please listen to me carefully. He said, one of the main problems we have in France, it is the ethnical regression of some of our young people, non-white people. Non-white people in France, they regress toward their ethnical roots, which are linked to violence and barbarianism and whatever you call it. He said so. He's a minister, he's a state minister. So this is the atmosphere. This is the atmosphere. Now,
and there's no change at all. I mean, we live in a world where we have been flooded with horrific pictures of what's happening.
You have been. My people have not. Because if you don't go on social network, you don't see. And this morning we were watching CNN, and I said, CNN is better than the French channels. If you go on the French channels, and they are all in one hand nowadays, that's the main cancer of our society. The fact that the main media, especially televisions, they are in the hands of extreme right capitalists or pro-Israeli generation. So you don't even see these pictures. But it is true that, since, Macron has been himself accused of anti-Semitism. Okay, the list of people, NATO, United Nations, they are all anti-Semitism by the words of Netanyahu or his friends. So it is true that there is some change. There is some change. The European Union on the 20th of May started to say that it could review the European Agreement of Cooperation with Israel. So this is a real step. It's only words until now, but yes, it is moving a little forward.
Okay, but President Macron also said that he is thinking about recognizing the Palestinian state. Do you think this is a cosmetic move? Because France, let's face it, has a huge Muslim population, and that Muslim population can feel that what's happening is very unfair.
If I am a little cynical, I will say, Macron has said to the Palestinians, I am going to help you to get rid of the resistance, to get rid of Hamas, that Hamas is demilitarized. What does it mean? I ask the question, did the international community at the end of World War II ask de Gaulle to step out of power and bring back the power to Maréchal Pétain, the agent, the friend of the Nazis, as a condition for stopping the Nazi violence? Can you imagine? And Macron is saying this, get rid of your leadership and you go back to a leadership who is the symbol of the collaboration with Israel. So, it is a very weak statement. We have many more means of pressure on Israel, and until now, not one of them has been used.
So, basically, France, l'élimination, Déclaration des droits de l'homme, the Charter of the Human Rights, this country that has led the Western world in many ways. It has been a symbol for so many years, and you're telling me that it's willing to sacrifice all these principles because it's bowing to pressure groups and to lobbyists?
I would go beyond the idea of lobbies. I would go to the root causes of this move of the society. What has occurred on the right side of the political landscape and on the left side when it comes to understanding the situation in Palestine. You might know the name of Jean-Marie Le Pen. He was the founder of the Front National. He was the
father of
right.
Marine Le Pen.
The father would never have supported Israel.
He was accused of being anti-Semitic.
Yeah, and to a certain extent, he deserved this accusation, okay? Marine Le Pen is blindly supporting Israel. Why? Because the bad guy before the World War II was the Jew. The enemy was the Jew, okay? And slowly, during World War II and years after World War II, with decolonization, the bad guy is no longer the Jew. It's not only the Arab or the Muslim, it is any representative of people of the South. The bad guy is whoever represents those societies upon which we had been in a situation of total hegemony and who dare raise their voice and their head and ask for their rights outside, ask for their rights inside the French society. Because what you must understand is that Islam, between Napoleon and de Gaulle, they were people from societies upon which we were in a situation of hegemony. They would obey by our orders. We were not afraid.
So basically you're saying they're not accepting that colonialism has ended and those people who were subjugated or submitted are now raising their hand.
Definitely. This is the key. Because if you are black in France, you do not have to be a Muslim to be segregated, to be discriminated. But also in Africa, with a lot of regimes which have nothing to do with Islam. It is not a war between religions. It is wider than this. And I go back to the saying of the Minister of Interior, ethnical. If you are not white, you are bad.
But this is not happening only in France. This is happening in Germany, France's
neighbor.
Yes, but
we are the best.
Why is it that this one conflict, right, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, is one that causes panic at the Élysée, at the White House, at the Bundestag, 10 Downing Street? Why is it that this one conflict have so much weight on these Western countries that they are willing to sacrifice their own principles? I don't get it. Can you explain it to me?
I mean, Palestine has become the symbol of the complete inability of the Western world to go universal. This is where all our principles fall apart. And it is more important than the war in Sudan. Why? Because we are not fully invested in the war in Sudan. There is a local problematic at a time when we are fully invested supporting Israel, the US and Europeans. So this makes it a most exemplary conflict, okay? And why is it? There's another way of addressing the issue. Sometimes I say the relation with Islam after World War II changed. It was no longer Muslims were inside Europe, okay? But what did they do when they arrived inside Europe as migrants imported by economic policies? They did nothing. Why? Because they didn't even know to speak French. And the generation after, they didn't know how to write. And the third generation, they didn't know the tactics of communication. And now we have the fourth and the fifth generation, and they can raise their voice. And this is the difference. So what the French would do...
But it's not only the Muslims who are upset about what's happening in Gaza.
No, it is true.
There's a lot of Jews who are rising against Zionism. There's a lot of Christians. There's a lot of pressure from the street, which is something new for the governments.
But now part of the landscape is that the Muslim generation in Europe, they know how to speak. They can speak. So this is part also of the landscape.
But you don't think that all these horrific images that are on social media, I know you said earlier that, it's for this side of the world or not, but I do think there are a lot, especially the young generations,
they get the information.
They're looking, they're seeing, and the governments cannot hide anymore. Cannot ignore that anymore. Don't you think there's a silver lining that the governments cannot continue?
No, it will move, it will change. But this is not the first time. We allow Israel to kill, and then we get tired and say, shh, end of the game. So we are going to say end of the game. But after 60,000 people have been killed, after the area where 2 million people live has been totally destroyed. But yes, it will come to an end. It will come to an end, but it will not restore. It will not revive all those who are dead. So this dark spot is very important, and I think it is part of the future history. I mean, the price paid by the Palestinian is very high, but I think that the price that Israel will pay will be higher. It has been said already. They went too far, and the new side of the Israeli conflict is that when the settlers entered the government, we moved from the polite Zionism to the true Zionism, very violent, very explicit hate system, and this is not good for Israel. It's better than a very polite Zionist say, yes, I will occupy you, but slowly. Now they have their hate discourse linked to their image. So they are losing. They have lost the battle. They have lost the battle of communication, but they still have the military balance on their side.
I mean, certainly this war will have long-term impact, not only on the Palestinians in Gaza or in the West Bank, on Israel, but I think also on Western powers in general. It's a big earthquake, and we're just beginning to feel its impact around the world, outside of Gaza. Franis Burga, this is a fascinating conversation. We could go on forever, but we have to end it. Thank you so much for coming to Center Stage.
It was a great honor. Thank you so much.